Good evening. Just imagine what it must have been like to be with Jesus and his disciples over 2,000 years ago. With less than 24 hours on this earth, Jesus gathers his disciples together away from the crowds in an upper room. As the fanfare and busyness of the last few days fades away, the noise of the busy streets below is muted. Maybe there is something different about this room that they're meeting in this evening. Though they are gathered for a meal, seemingly there are no servants scurrying around, no one there to wash the disciples' feet before they recline round the table. This ritual of gathering for a meal is so familiar to them, yet this time it is different. There is a feeling of uneasiness, and it increases to discomfort as Jesus stands up, removes his robe, puts a towel round his waist. Imagine the disciples now. They must have been looking at each other and saying, "What is he doing?" Once a year, our worship service takes us to a meal in an upper room where a friend turns traitor, to a garden of hard-fought prayer and then arrest, to a kangaroo court and then to execution. We peer into the abyss and we remember those whose suffering was mirrored on the cross: the oppressed, the dying, the unjustly accused, the deserted, and those who feel hopeless. And having startled his disciples by washing their feet, Jesus turns and says to them, "You call me teacher and Lord, and that is what I am. So if I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's. For I have set you an example that you should also do as I have done for you." I can remember the awkwardness of attending my first foot washing service and the uncertainty of it. But as it progressed, a sense of engaging in a most profound and meaningful act took hold. It is to experience what the disciples must have been feeling those years ago: the humility, the love, and the sense of service is transforming. What Jesus is saying to us is that there is no task too menial, no service so difficult, no need so off-putting that we should not do for each other. Jesus turned his world upside down when he took on the role of servant and washed the disciples' feet. In the 3rd century, the Roman Emperor Valerian regularly persecuted the church. One day he summoned the priest and demanded to see the treasures of the church. The emperor intended the priest to bring the gold and jewelled vessels used for liturgical purposes. He returned instead with a gathering of people, the poor, the needy, and those without a home. And the emperor demanded to know where the treasures of the church were. And the reply was, "These are the treasures of the church." Just hold that image in your mind as we think of the poor, the needy, the homeless. What is so unexpected and so profoundly loving about this foot washing is not that it is just the teacher and master doing a servant's work. What sticks out in our mind is that Jesus held their dirty feet, and in that moment of intimacy, he held so much more. Jesus held their untrusting hearts, their weak spirits, their hardened egos, and their unwillingness to be so vulnerable. Jesus is quite clear that this particular act of foot washing is not about cleanliness, but about relationships. It is the liturgical foundation of the new commandment which he then gives them. Love one another as I have loved you. Jesus' teaching makes it clear that the kind of love of which he's speaking ignores all the boundaries that us humans so imaginatively create. People don't turn up on our doorsteps with ready washed feet. They come with dirty feet, feet misshapen by experience. And Jesus says that's where we're to get stuck in. There will be times when we have the opportunity to minister to someone, to meet them at their point of need, not to make them more acceptable to us, but to help them live with themselves, to begin to understand what it means to be loved. So serve one another, knowing that as we participate in this sacred act, we are experiencing God's love for us through another. In this moment, as we become truly present to one another, Christ becomes present with us as surely as he is in breaking the bread, washing away the pain and the wounds from each of us. So let us all be open to receiving God's love. Amen.